Canucks go 1 for 2 on their back-to-back weekend homestand. Coming up short in a 3-1 loss to the Utah Hockey Club. It's time to break it all down. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a Sunday night that saw the Vancouver Canucks fall 3-1 to the visiting Utah Hockey Club, a clean sweep of the season series for the first-year team in the National Hockey League, the new kids on the NHL block. And things are getting tight now around the playoff bar in the Western Conference. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. It's a presentation of Bet365. I'm Jeff. He is Irf, and we're happy to have him back after a night off last night. Last night was the fun night. You missed all the fun, Irf.
Lots of goals.
This was not so much fun for the Vancouver Canucks and their fans, but we do the show, win or lose. We work with the material that the hockey club presents, and unfortunately, we've done a lot of nights like this where offense was just way too hard to come by. They certainly had opportunities in this game to make some things happen. 3 third-period power plays that go by the wayside with very little in the way of flash or panache. You just wanted something from any of their top-end guys with the man advantage, but Canucks go quietly into the night. So a split of the weekend. They got the one that they had to have against Chicago, but they also needed to get something out of this game as they went to the third period in a 1-1 tie. And boy, how many times did we say that out of the Four Nations break? They were in all those tight games, including one in Utah, where they got nothing to show for it. Games got away from them in the third period, and that's what happened here. The hockey club scores the only goals of the third period to win it by a score of 3-1. We want to hear from you. We're certainly going to break it down. We'll give you our thoughts. We're hoping to get inside the locker room and hear from the players and the coaches as well. But you guys are key contributors to this program, have been all season, and a big part of our success is incorporating your feedback. So hit us up at our social channels. You can see them on the live stream and, of course, in the YouTube live chat as well. And super chats are always an option if you want to get your comment or your question to the top of the queue. Bring it with a super chat. Our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Canucks open the scoring early in the second period. Quinn Hughes scores for the second straight night. In fact, the captain opened the scoring last night against Chicago, and he does it again here, up to 16 now on the season. Unfortunately, that was going to be it for the offense for the Vancouver Canucks. And after that, Utah with 3 unanswered goals. Kevin Stenlund with a wide-open side of the net after Bustad wraps it around, finds Stenlund at the back door, 12 minutes into the second, tied it at 1. Go to the third period. Canucks are right there. They're in it. We talked about the power plays they had, didn't do anything with them. Logan Cooley grabs a rebound from a fairly sharp angle and is able to snipe it for his 18th of the season. That put the hockey club up 2-1. Turned out to be the game winner. Clayton Keller seals it into an empty net, his 24th of the season. And that was it for the scoring, Irf. And as I said, that was it for the fun on the night as well. This is a disappointment for the Vancouver Canucks. They had a chance to really separate themselves from not just Utah, but even a team like the Calgary Flames. This was an opportunity lost on home ice for the Canucks.
Big time. I mean, look, everyone I think got really excited last night when they scored 6 goals against the Chicago Blackhawks and wasted their goals and what have you. But, I asked on social, what did you think of this one? What did you make of it? And someone responded and said, this is the best we have in the middle of a playoff race against a mid-tier team. Not much more to say. And I think when you look at it, it's kind of right. Like, this team, the way they operate against a very bad Blackhawks team, you can beat up on the bad teams all you want, but against a team that they're not even great in Utah, you need to get that effort. You need to kick it into the extra gear. The Canucks had plenty of opportunities. We'll get to it. They had a 4-minute power play in this hockey game and still nothing to show for it.
No Filip Chytil, not a surprise after he took the knock from Jason Dickinson late in the third period last night. And Rick Tocchet wouldn't use the word concussion, but he did say he's in protocol. So I think he answered the questions there, and he did refer to Filip Chytil's extensive history with head injuries as well. So I think some real concern on the part of the Vancouver Canucks. This Utah team can scoot. They can move around the ice, and so Chytil's speed was sorely missed by the Vancouver Canucks. They didn't lose this game because they didn't have Filip Chytil, but obviously Filip Chytil is better than the guys that replaced him. Nils Åman moves to center ice. Jonathan Lekkerimäki gets back in the lineup, but nothing from the bottom of the lineup, and really very little from the top aside from Quinn Hughes. And we've seen so many nights like this where it feels like 17 other guys are just waiting around for Quinn to make things happen, and he did on the power play with a shot that snuck through kind of. I thought it had tipped off one of the bodies in front, but it's given to Quinn, so it's 16th of the season. EP40 and Jake DeBrusk get the assist. That one came on the power play, and you thought, okay, well, power play opens the scoring.
Yeah.
Hey, if in a tight game, if they can get one more power play opportunity, maybe they can sneak this thing out. Well, they did get more power play opportunities, but boy, they just didn't do anything with them. And, again, they just lean so heavily on Quinn Hughes. Second of back-to-backs, the guy plays 29 minutes and 49 seconds, so half the hockey game, and 11 minutes and 48 seconds of the third period. Like, we'll do a stat that stands out. That's a stat that stands out, and it tells you how much he means, but also how much they turn to him and just, Quinn, do your thing. And he can't do it every night. He does it to the best of his ability. He's had an amazing season, but he needs some help too, and there just wasn't enough to go around tonight.
8th time in his career, Jeff, he's scored in back-to-back games. Well, obviously great for Quinn Hughes. Just for context, Teddy Bluger scored in back-to-back games this season. He hadn't done it before that since 2021, right. And he's a forward. I mean, look, it's Quinn Hughes. We all know he's very special. But to echo what you just said, you can't. They're not good enough just to rely on one player. Like the Tampa Bay Lightning for so long relied on offense through their defense, but they had guys like Hedman, they had Sergachev, they had guys like Ryan McDonough, they had players that went and were able to do those things. It's Quinn Hughes, and that's it. I know Philip Hronek's been racking up assists and getting his points and things like that, but they give him the puck at the blue line and just let him do his thing. Nobody's going to the front of the net. Nobody's doing other things. And in a tight checking hockey game, you have to create space. You have to create your own chances, and you need someone else. No Filip Chytil in the lineup. All of the eyes turned to Elias Pettersson. He had one shot on net in this hockey game.
Yeah, and how many times have we said it? Well, probably 12, because it's now a 12-game drought for Brock Boeser since the Four Nations face-off. Hasn't scored. He had one shot on goal.
Yep.
The problem with Brock here is that it's not just no goals in 12 since the Four Nations. Or if it's 4 goals since the calendar turned to 2025. Like since Jan 1, Brock Boeser has 4 goals in 31 hockey games. All these tight games the Canucks play. A goal, like even if you had double that output, if you had 8 goals, that would be 4 more goals along the way. Like one of them might be a game winner somewhere, who knows, but 4 goals in 31, that is not the Brock Boeser that we certainly saw last year getting to 40, but really the Brock Boeser that we have known over his career has been pretty consistent. Like sometimes he gets on those hot streaks as goal scorers do, but he rarely gets into these kinds of droughts. And so it's not just no goals in 12 since Four Nations. You go back to Jan 1, he has 4 goals in his last 31 hockey games and just isn't looking like a dangerous difference maker at all right now. Well,
no, and the thing is, Jeff, he's not even getting himself into those positions we're used to seeing him. He doesn't even look dangerous. And I think that that's another thing, if there's an injury, if something's bothering him, we don't know. But obviously playing with Elias Pettersson, maybe that elevates his game a little bit. But when Rick Tocchet looks at his lineup and he looks at guys that are going, obviously Elias Pettersson is going, wants to play him with players that are probably going to help him elevate his game. Right now, Brock is not in those cards to put him up the lineup. So you got to stick him with a guy like Teddy Bluger, who is, like I just said, not known for his offense. So it's unfortunate that line isn't really going to generate you anything by default, because those guys just aren't going to create chances. You hope he can succeed on the power play. You hope he can get something going there. But dude doesn't even shoot the puck there either. So it's tough. And in a game where you must have, I see people in our chat saying, oh, it's a second of back-to-backs. The game was over yesterday in the second period. Like, the Canucks basically dog walked through the third period of that hockey game, and they knew what they had coming today. They went home, they got there early. The first period was over in 26 minutes. Like, it was quick. There shouldn't be any excuse for that. It's an opponent that they needed to have. They know where they are in the standings, and they came up short. That is the extent of it.
Yeah, and now they're 2-7, and they're 9 in the second half of back-to-back. So the game in Calgary the other night, we gave them credit. Dug down in that third period. Again, where is that? Like, they had 17 shots as it turned out, but they were shooting Calgary 15-1 at one point. They don't even get to 20 either night this weekend. And so...
But yesterday they scored 6 goals, so everyone got excited about that.
And sure, it was a nice break, and it gave us something to talk about, but unfortunately, these are who the Vancouver Canucks have been for much of the second half of the season, certainly. And so, yeah, offense hard to come by. They get outshot 23-19. They stay on 73 points. We'll update the standings here in a moment. 31-25-11. That is their record now through 67 games. So there are 15 games to go. Like, it is crunch time. They are very much into the stretch run. And, they got Winnipeg calling on Tuesday. So the homestand doesn't get any easier as things wrap up before they head out on the road for 6 in a row that starts in St. Louis with the next biggest game of the season for the Vancouver Canucks. And the Blues making some noise. They pound Anaheim tonight 7-2. And so when we look around the playoff bar in the Western Conference, it's getting spicy. Canucks remain above the playoff bar. Even with the loss and the fact they didn't pick up any points, they will stay above the playoff bar, but they've got company at 73 points. There's suddenly red-hot St. Louis Blues are up to 73. They've played an extra game. So the Canucks have a game in hand on the Blues. Calgary and now Utah with 71 apiece. Calgary's got 2 games in hand on the Canucks in Utah and 3 on the St. Louis Blues. So Flames starting a road trip. They're in Toronto on Monday, and all they could do was sit and watch, and they were hoping that this one wasn't going to be a 3-point game and that both the Canucks and Utah were going to pick up points, and in the end, that didn't happen. Utah gets 2, and so a good road win for the hockey club. They're off to Edmonton to wrap up their road trip, and the Vancouver Canucks, as we said, it's going to be difficult. You got Winnipeg coming in on Tuesday night. All right, let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game. This is a difficult selection because there really weren't standouts on a night like tonight, but the 3 stars in the building, Nick Schmaltz had a couple of assists. Karl Vejmelka wasn't terribly busy, but ultimately held the Canucks to 1 goal and on a power play at that, so he was the second star. And Quinn Hughes was named star number 3 in the building, selected by the Sportsnet guys. Our 3 stars a little bit different. Logan Cooley, and again, he wasn't great, but who stepped up in those moments that Rick Tocchet always talks about? Logan Cooley at 5:08 of the third period, breaks a 1-all tie. And you saw the hands there. Like, that's a tough shot that he had to get away from a fairly sharp angle, picks up the rebound, and snaps it home. Cooley from Sean Dursey and Nick Schmaltz got the second assist on that one. So game winner, Logan Cooley is the first star. Nick Schmaltz with the assists on both of the third period goals. So he's the second star. And we already documented what Quinn's night looked like. Played a lot, played hard as he always does. But in the end, they needed more from other guys, not named Quinn Hughes, but we'll give Quinn the third star here. The 3 stars on Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of Greta Bar YVR. And we talk about Greta on every episode. We're going to be hosting another Canucks Army viewing party for an upcoming road game. Details being ironed out and finalized. We'll let you know as soon as we have them all, but plans are definitely in the works. So make sure you join us and experience Greta for yourself. So many big screens. There's not a bad seat in the house. All kinds of arcade games. You order off the terrific new street food menu. They've got weekly drink specials. Greta Bar, the place to be. 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. All right, let's dig into this, Irf, because really, the Canucks let this thing get away in the third period. Logan Cooley gets called for holding on Elias Pettersson, kind of hog-ties him at the blue line. First power play in that third period, and it was ghastly. But a few moments later, it's Clayton Keller kind of stumbles at the bench and gets stick up into the face of Brock Boeser.
Yeah, they thought it was a skate, but ended up being,
2 minutes. He gets 4 for high sticking there. Brock looked like he had maybe lost a tooth or a little bit of blood on the lower lip, whatever the case. 9 minutes to go in a 2-1 hockey game. You get a 4-minute power play, and, I mean, they could barely get out of their own zone. They couldn't make a pass to save their lives. Just so frustrating. It has to be frustrating for the guys on the ice, certainly for the coaching staff. I know the fans weren't enjoying what they were seeing, and as we watched here from the studio as well, you just want to pull your hair out. I mean, that's the ballgame right there. It's on their stick. They'd already scored on a power play. I don't think it's too much to ask to find a second power play goal somewhere along the line here. So many opportunities to do something, and in the end, they fall flat there. So I think you can point to those 6 minutes in the third period where they have the man advantage and really did just next to nothing with it.
Well, the 2-minute power play, okay, whatever. They killed that off. It's fine. The 4-minute with like what you had going and you know what moments there were happening in the game, they panicked coming out of their own end, Jeff. Like whoever it was that got the puck behind the net, that first pass was awful. It really was, whether it was Pettersson or whether it was Hughes or whether it was a drop pass for Hughes, and then let's just stand and watch Quinn Hughes. That is basically what happened on that power play. Credit to Utah. Yeah, okay, they did their work in killing that power play, but for the most part, it was more credit to the Canucks for giving Utah opportunities to make it easy. You came in and talked about how many times that Bo Horvat was open in that bumper slot. For so many years we sat and we talked about it. There is absolutely no danger of that for the Vancouver Canucks. There's no danger when Connor Garland is winding up for a slap shot. There's no danger in that. Brock Boeser, a non-factor now because everyone knows he's not going to shoot. And when he does, he's not hitting the net. Elias Pettersson's not shooting either. He looked like he was double clutching. So the only person on that power play with the threat to shoot the puck is Quinn Hughes. And they know that. Every team knows that. And at one point in the power play, they had 5 right-handed guys on it.
Yeah. And that was a new wrinkle. Yeah. And look, nothing else was working. But yeah, at one point they had Hronek and Myers, Boeser, Lekkerimäki, and Kiefer Sherwood up front. So 5 right-handed shots. That didn't amount to anything either. But you're right. And look, I get that with Quinn Hughes, it's a different dynamic.
Yep.
The power plays, one of the key thrust was to get it to the inside. You had JT Miller as a shooting threat from the left side. He could go down low. He could shoot himself or play it to the interior, and Bo Horvat became an ace finisher. With Quinn Hughes, it's different. The power play runs through Quinn, but so much of it is that high pass across the blue line, usually to Elias Pettersson. Sometimes it's Boeser over on that side. And then, they're trying to drag the penalty killers to that side and get it back to Quinn and let him do his thing. But at some point, you have to mix it up. It can't always be the same because, as you said, not just the other team, but the 19,000 people in the building, they all know it is remarkably predictable. And so the one power play goal that they did get tonight was a shot from the left point, but there was traffic in front of the net, and eventually the puck squeezes through. But yeah, in those key moments, it just try something a little bit different. And it just, tonight in that third period, it looked like guys that had never played together. Look like there's 5 guys that have been thrown out there and, power play? All right, let's see what we can do.
And even on the Sergachev, or even on the Quinn Hughes goal, Sergachev threw it into his own net, basically.
Right.
But it is, you're right, about getting pucks on net and being able to do that. And there's also too many of the, y'all will note this, rink wide passes on the power play there. We like that here, but,
yes.
There are far too many of them.
Even we have our limits when it comes to...
There are far too many of them, especially with the talent that they have of the guys that can pull the trigger. They don't. And it's frustrating to watch. It has to be frustrating for the coaching staff. And they're going to have to go back to the drawing board here because special teams in big games are difference makers. And right now for the Canucks, it's not.
Canucks only took one penalty. Tyler Myers with the delay of game. Well, Utah had one power play. There were a couple of matching penalties. There was a bunch of 4-on-4 in the first period.
Lots of 4-on-4.
But Tyler Myers with the early delay of game penalty kill comes through again. And it's done that. So the penalty killers weren't tested a lot in this game, but they did their job. Power play got one, but man, it needed another in that third period. Super chat coming in from Matt Blom, and we appreciate your contribution to the BC Mental Health Foundation, Matt. Canucks deathly allergic to getting into the slot and shooting from the most dangerous areas needs to be called out. Cost them huge in the third period. Well, okay, I think you just did. We'll amplify your thoughts there with the super chat. Keep those coming, and you'll get to the top of the queue here on Rink Wide. But yeah, how many times, or have we heard Rick Tocchet talk about getting to the middle of the ice? And it did feel like a ton of perimeter play. Now, give Utah credit. They were the rested team. They lost in Seattle the other night, so their desperation level went up. But, again, I just didn't think that the Canucks, certainly their shots on goal would tell you that they didn't press the issue here. There wasn't that desperation that we saw in the third period of the night in Calgary. You're not always going to get up to 17 shots in a period. I understand that. But even though they had 9, it didn't feel like they had 9. But, they're credited with 9 in the third period. 4, 6, 9 on the night. Those were their shot totals by period. But still, they got outshot 23-19. And so Matt's not wrong. Like when I look through my notes, generally I look to see, okay, I jot down scoring chances, things that I thought were really good opportunities. And there just isn't anything from a Vancouver Canuck in this hockey game. I got a couple of good ones from Utah. Early on, Dylan Guenther, like a minute into the hockey game, the bang-bang play there, the redirect off the rush. And I think, that Utah serve notice there. Their speed is their calling card.
Yep.
And we know that the Canucks have had trouble.
The Canucks can't hang with teams. Yeah, Canucks can't hang with teams.
You want a counterpunch, and Filipino's not available to you. Really quiet game for Drew O'Connor. I don't expect him to be a difference maker, but he is one of the guys that gets around the ice for the Vancouver Canucks. And, outside of that penalty shot goal that he scored in San Jose, he really hasn't brought a ton to the mix, but I guess they saw enough to re-up him for a couple of years already, so he's got his contract. But
where's Dakota Joshua, too?
Yep. No, right? Look, when no forward score a goal, you can go down the list here. But you're not wrong in asking all of those questions. So I'm going to be curious to hear what Rick Tocchet has to say. I know Kiefer Sherwood was popping off a little bit about the Jason Dickinson hit that took Filipino out of the lineup. Noah Strang from Daily Hive quoting Sherwood after the game. This is Sherwood talking about Jason Dickinson. He's going to have to answer the bell next year. That was a dirty hit, unnecessary, 6'2", talking about the score, I think, not his height. But and then he doesn't have the whatever to step on the ice after. It is what it is. We'll get him next year, says Kiefer Sherwood. So throwing down the gauntlet. Yeah, the Canucks don't see the Blackhawks again this season, so we'll see if they have a long memory. But clearly some frustration in the wake of this loss about the events late in the hockey game on Saturday night.
100% fair. Get yours. Get Jason Dickinson. You're going to have to answer the bell. I get it. Go and do that. But use that as some sort of rallying cry to take it out against Utah. Go and do that. Exercise your anger and your frustration that one of your guys is missing in a game that you need to win. You're not playing Chicago now. You're going to be pissed off about it, okay, up until next season at some point. But you can do something in the immediate, and that's win a hockey game. And again, he for sure one of those guys. We credit him so much, talk about the hits and all of that. Another quiet night. Rick Tocchet, Noah Strang from Daily Hive. I hope we can get to Rick a little bit later. But Rick Tocchet says the coaching staff a little frustrated and a little bummed out because there is plays to be made on the power play, Jeff, but the Canucks aren't finding them. Your thoughts of the little assessment there from the head coach?
Yeah, and we've heard that before, and it's hard to disagree. I mean, in 6 minutes of power play time in that third period, veer from the script a little bit, some creativity. These are your best offensive players. Make some things happen. This city rose up last Friday night when Elias Pettersson scored on the one-timer. Yeah, in 6 minutes, work the puck around so that it's in his wheelhouse at some point. Didn't see that. You talk about Garland, and I agree. He's just not a shooting threat out there on the flank, and yet we see the big windup all the time. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because it was there to get something out of this hockey game. I'm not going to say that the Canucks deserve to win. They did. They didn't play well enough. But in a tight game that goes to the third period in a 1-1 tie, certainly it was there to get something and take 3 of 4. If they get 3 or 4 points from the weekend, I think people say, hey, yeah, you would love the clean sweep, but you're not going to win all the games, but 3 of 4 certainly helps you. Every point matters right now in this push to the playoffs with 15 games to go. We talk about the home record. They'd won last night against Chicago. Great. Everybody beats Chicago on home ice.
Chicago beats Chicago, too, everywhere.
Yeah, Chicago has 1 win in its last 10 road games. Yeah. Everybody at home is beating the Blackhawks, so Canucks just kind of held serve in that regard. But this home ice record, when all is said and done, if they come up a little short at the end of the season, their home record is 17-13-4, so 17 wins, 17 losses on home ice, and that has to be better. But again, you got Winnipeg coming in on Tuesday. That is going to be a tall order for the Vancouver Canucks. I want to get to the stat that stands out here, and then we'll carry on our discussion. We're going to hear from Quinn Hughes as well. The stat that stands out brought to you by Resurrection Spirits. And look, when all is said and done, and the season's not over, 15 games to go. Let's see how it plays out here. The Canucks went 0-2-1, though. They went 0 against this Utah Hockey Club. Utah took 6 points off the Vancouver Canucks to the Canucks 1 for an overtime loss in their first meeting of the year. On top of all that, Canucks scored 4 goals against the hockey club this season. A 2-1 loss, a 3-1 loss, and a 3-2 loss in overtime. The overtime loss, if you remember, just before Christmas, they had a 2-0 third period lead.
And it's not even like Utah scoring a bunch of goals, so the Canucks have to play this run and gun style of hockey against this team.
Nope.
Utah plays fast. They take care of the puck in their own end, and they capitalize on mistakes. And sometimes the Canucks make mistakes, but they don't. The Canucks aren't doing enough to create their own chances or to do any of that to compete with this team. But that's not good enough. I mean, it's the Arizona Coyotes with a couple players. In all reality,
no, you're right. It's the Arizona Coyotes dressed up in white and powder blue and some black. I got to say, my first look at the unis, thumbs up. I actually, it's sort of that less is more. Like, there isn't a whole lot to them, but the color scheme works for me, and I'm sure it looked pretty good to them tonight on the winning side. The other thing, just back to the stat that stands out, so the Canucks go 0-2-1 against Utah. They score 4 goals. They open the scoring in all 3 games, and get basically nothing. They get a loser point for an OTL back in December. So that's frustrating on a lot of levels when you look at these teams. Yes, they beat Calgary, but they gave up a single point to Calgary. So they've given up points to Calgary and to Utah this week, and then they're going to go into St. Louis on Thursday for a big one there. Like, it's conceivable that within the week, the Canucks have given up points to the Flames, the Utah Hockey Club, and the St. Louis Blues, but we won't write them off. We'll give them a chance in St. Louis, see how that game goes at the start of the road trip on Thursday. Stat that stands out is a presentation of Resurrection Spirits, an East Vancouver company offering a full range of small batch distilled spirits from rye to gin to vodka, and even a ready-to-pour old-fashioned. And these spirits are crafted using BC ingredients, so you're supporting local, which is more important than ever. They've partnered with our friends to come up with a comparison-priced gin, and they've got a deal for you. $5 off if you use the code S&P. You check it out at resurrectionspirits.ca. You can find out about the S&P gin. You can find out about the entire product line on their website. Get it while you can. Once those S&P bottles are gone, they are gone. Monday will be a day off for the Vancouver Canucks after a back-to-back weekend, so they will rest up. And a guy like Quinn Hughes certainly is going to need his rest after playing close to 30 minutes in this hockey game. The others probably just get away from the rink and clear your heads and know that you're going to have to be a whole lot better on Tuesday against Winnipeg than you were in this one tonight against the Utah Hockey Club. That interesting construction of the roster. Like, their top-end guys, Clayton Keller, who, when you see him in person, like, he sort of reminds me of Quinn Hughes just as a forward. Like, the way that he plays, the way that he moves around the ice, controls the puck. Highly skilled guy. Yeah, he gets an empty netter, so it wasn't like his fingerprints were all over this victory, but he's involved, took the penalties that should have put his team in more harm. But, Cooley's not a big guy. Barrett Hayton's not a particularly big guy. So up front, their high-end skill is a little undersized. And then you get to the bottom 2 forward lines, and it's just giant after giant. Lawson Krause, 6'4". Jack McBain, 6'4". Josh Jones, 6'2". Kevin Stenlund, 6'3". Nick Bjugstad, 6'5". Their smallest guy among the bottom 6 is Michael Carconi, who is a little wrecking ball out there and is always looking to engage. So it's just really interesting the way that they're built. Obviously, a guy like Dylan Guenther, he's got some size to him, and man, can he shoot the puck. I mean, 24 goals on the season, and I think people already know, but just to see him in person, like, some guys' shots just pop differently, and the few times that he let shots go, like, he means business. He's going to score a lot of goals in the National Hockey League. So we'll see how it all plays out here as the dust settles. But this is a big win for Utah that absolutely puts them right back into the picture. As we said, just 2 points separating 4 teams now right around the playoff bar in the, I think we can call it the Wild Wild West. It may not be the most exciting race because nobody's, well, I shouldn't say that. St. Louis all of a sudden, Blues pounded Anaheim tonight. They're 9-2-2 in their last 13 hockey games. Where'd that come from?
They're playing well.
Yeah.
They got a good goalie. They got experience. They got guys that can put the buck into the net.
Yeah, they lost Colton Parayko for 6 weeks. Like, that should have mattered. That should hurt them. But you're right. Their top-end guys seem to be going. So, again, Canucks can't worry about the Blues right now because they don't see them till Thursday. But, yeah, the way the St. Louis team is going, look out for those St. Louis Blues. Maybe they are the team that's going to emerge here from the pack to rise up and grab that final playoff spot in the Western Conference. Wanted to ask you, Well, first of all, let's hear from Quinn Hughes.
Yes.
I want to hear from the captain. But then I want to ask you a little bit about the decisions that the Canucks made with their defense tonight, given the fact it was back-to-back here and they've played a lot of hockey of late. But I guess if Quinn's going to play half the game, it doesn't really matter that much who else is wearing the uniform. Let's hear from the captain. He scored tonight, but that was it for the offense for the Canucks. His 16th of the season, not nearly enough. Quinn Hughes after a disappointing 3-1 loss to the Blues.
They want to, got to be better there.
Anything specifically that wasn't working in terms of, was it zone entries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely have some ideas off the cuff here. Just keep that to myself and we'll work on as a unit of 5 or 10 and get better.
It felt like when you guys went up 1-0, they started taking the game over a little bit. Was there any fatigue at all, given how much you guys have been playing?
I don't think so.
3 one-goal losses to these guys this year, Quinn. What's been the difference?
I mean, they're a good team, but I think shot ourselves in the foot with the power play and definitely had our opportunities where we could have cracked open the game.
First period, it seemed really tough to generate shots. What was the reason behind that?
Not sure.
Given that you've had a bit of success with a couple of games here and some wins and getting back above the bar, how much does this take away from all of that?
I don't think it should take away much. I mean, obviously we could have separated ourselves today, and I think that was something that, everyone knew how big that would be, but now we're just still in the same position we've been in, which is, have to, do or die pretty much every day. And it's exciting. So everyone should be up in here and excited.
Do you keep a close eye on the standings? Is it something you try to avoid watching?
No, I mean, I think that everyone should understand where everyone's at here. I don't think anyone should be shying away from looking at that. And like I just said, it's exciting. It's a nice opportunity for us to see, what type of group we are.
There you go, Quinn Hughes after a loss to Utah. I said the Blues. They have some blue in their jersey.
They do.
I had the St. Louis Blues on my mind, but that's Thursday. This was Utah tonight, so we're trying to keep it all straight here on Rink Wide. There's a lot going on these days in this playoff race. I was glad to hear he didn't use the back-to-backs as any kind of excuse, even though I'm sure he's going to be feeling it, having not played a whole lot of hockey here of late. I guess, if we're grasping at sort of silver linings, it's the fact that in an important game like this one, Quinn Hughes is healthy enough to play 30 minutes. You don't want him playing 30 minutes, but a week ago, I don't think he was physically capable of doing that. And so, he came back for the Calgary game. I thought looked pretty good there, had a point last night against Chicago, had his moments, didn't have to play nearly as much, but the fact that when the chips are down here, they can lean on the captain that much. Again, it's sort of double-edged sword. Like, it's great that he has the wherewithal now to be able to withstand that kind of workload, but at the same time, I don't think you want to, and quite frankly, they can't. With 15 games to go, they can't be running Quinn Hughes out there 12 minutes of a period like they did in the third tonight.
No, absolutely not. And I'm sure that he doesn't want to be playing 12 minutes in the third period either. Like, the first thing he said, he's like, I've got some ways so we can fix the power play, and I'll keep those to myself for a little while. But yes, your best player, your leader, the quarterback of that power play. It's the focal point because he's right. It could have been a chance for them to break the game open. It really could have. Scored on the first one, 6 minutes of power play time in the third period. They could have easily won this hockey game based on special teams alone. So this one will go down as one of those things. And, I think it was Farhan that asked about the lack of shots in the first period. He said he didn't really know. Yeah. Obviously didn't use fatigue as an excuse, but they've got to find a way. And the amount of times that I think you and I have sat here this season and talked about shots and the lack thereof. And we blame coaching, you blame the players, you blame roster construction. At this point in this season, it's everybody. Like, you get yourself prepared to play a game, you understand where you are in the standings, and you go out and execute at a high level. And right now, this team isn't doing that. For this game alone.
A quick thought on Quinn Hughes. The Canucks had 19 shots in the hockey game. He had 5 of them by himself. Their only goal, he had 9 attempts on the night. So he's just giving it everything, but needed some help in this hockey game and didn't get it. A couple other things that jump off the page. Tough night for Pia Suter in the faceoff circle. Won 5 of 21 faceoffs.
Smoked.
So, he got pounded there. We know that Nils Amon is not a great faceoff guy. He went 1-5. In the faceoff circle as a team, the Canucks go 20-35. So they win 36% of the draws. And And again, that's the trickle down. Like Philip Hedl isn't a world beater, but he's been pretty good in the face-off circle, and he's certainly better than Nils Amon. I think if Amon's in the lineup, you'll want him on the wing, but they didn't have much choice. Hedl comes out, everybody gets shifted up. Suter's all of a sudden your second-line center. Teddy Bluger's playing higher than ideally you'd like him, and Nils Amon into the middle as a centerman, and as we said, has always struggled at the NHL level in the face-off circle.
Time to get Ratu up.
Yeah, Abbotsford played earlier today, and
obviously, yeah,
they won 1-0, so they were able to make one goal stand up. They beat Calgary's farm team 1-0 out in Abbotsford, but I do wonder.
But Jonathan Lekramacky on your fourth line isn't doing anything.
No, it's not happening on this call-up for him. I agree with you. Got power play time. When I look at his night as a whole here, Lekramacky only played 8.5 minutes, but gets a minute and a half power play time, not a single shot attempt. For a guy with a shot like that, and again, we talk about finding different ways on the power play. He's got to find a way to get open, and when the puck's on his stick, let her fly. I mean, we know that he's got a shot that can beat goaltenders, but I think this call-up has been a little disappointing. Underlying numbers on the night, high dangers, 10-3 in favor of Utah. I think that's pretty indicative of the way that the game went. Corsi, the Coyotes, hockey club, whatever they are, you know who I'm talking about. The other guys tonight,
the Utahs,
they controlled 53.8% of all shot attempts at 5-on-5, so it wasn't one-sided in that regard, but the scoring chances 19-12, and the actual high dangers were 10-3. Two of the goals, 2-0. They outscored the Canucks at 5-on-5. When we look at the Canucks individually, nobody stands out. I shouldn't say that. Quinn Hughes had no surprise. Quinn Hughes had a solid night. Individual Corsi at 73%, then a drop-off to guys like Pia Suter, Philip Hronik, and down at the bottom, Victor Mancini. And I wanted to talk about him. This is where I wanted to get to on the decisions that they made. So this is back-to-back. A week ago, even up until he left the game in Calgary the other night, the big hit on Nazem Kadri, like this market was getting drunk on DPD. And now DPD can't get in the lineup. And look, Victor Mancini, I thought he had a strong game in Calgary. I liked what he did last night against the Chicago Blackhawks. And the underlying is not kind to him. Individual Corsi of 15%. The shots were 4-0 in favor of the hockey club when he was out there. So the Canucks didn't manage a single shot on goal when he was on the ice and gave up 4. Now, he wasn't on the ice for any goals, but back-to-back at this level for the first time as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. This was a guy that had to be patient and wait his turn to get into the lineup. Again, I can see sort of the raw materials that excite the Canucks about this player, but if DPD was fully healthy and he practiced Friday, he took the warm-up tonight, like I'm led to believe that he was a healthy scratch. I do think on the back-to-backs here that they had an option to slide forward over to the right side so you keep him in the lineup for penalty-killing utility and you get DPD back in there, but they made the decision. They didn't lose this hockey game because Victor Mancini played. Don't get me wrong here.
No.
But I thought that was a little curious. I just kind of thought that, you got these two young guys. They're both vying for ice time. They both have shown reasonably well. I don't think you want DPD out of your lineup a whole lot longer if he is an option. So, the door's open now to make some changes after a loss like this one. We'll see what Tuesday brings, but were you surprised? Do you think it was just a matter of, hey, winning lineup last night, everybody pulled on the rope in the right direction, just come back with the guys that were healthy and available tonight?
A bit of that. Maybe, like you mentioned, the height and the size of Utah in the second set of their forward group there.
Got that too, right?
Yeah, Mancini's 6'3".
It's a lefty-righty thing, certainly.
For sure.
Because Forbert would have to slide over to his off hand there. Whatever. The coaches make the decisions, and after losses, they open themselves up to some questions. But the Canucks did not lose because of a rookie defenseman was in the lineup instead of the other rookie defenseman.
100%. But I sit here a lot and talk about best chance to win, best players on the ice, giving you your best chance to win a hockey game. They're a better team when DPD's on the ice. So I think that goes without saying. But they decided to go the way they did, and it was the offensive part of their game that let them down.
Going to hear from Rick Tocchet here in a sec. Before that, though, this segment brought to you by the Pacific Toyota dealers, and they want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X, 100% electric. It's backed by the peace of mind that, it's Toyota. the spark of joy that you get when you pass a gas station. You know, you don't have to stop. Yeah, certainly some relief there, and it can handle any terrain. It can take you from the city to the slopes or wherever your life takes you. And when you choose the BZ4X, you get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Now, this is the final opportunity. The contest closes on Monday, so don't waste any time here. If you haven't already, jump on board a contest that's going to get you into a Canucks game against the Golden Knights on April the 6th. And it's not just seats in the lower bowl. 2 tickets to the Konica Minolta Champions Club at Rogers Arena. This is doing it upright. This is watching hockey the way you want to watch hockey. If you haven't had an opportunity, then again, get in on the contest here. You get 2 Canucks jerseys as well if you're the lucky winner. Click on the Toyota Pacific dealer's logo on CanucksArmy.com, or you can hit the link in our episode description, or you can follow Toyota Pacific on Instagram and Facebook at Toyota Pacific for your chance to enter. The contest is open only to residents of BC and the Yukon, and you have to be the age of majority. And again, the contest closes on Monday, so multitask here. Listen and watch Rink Wide, but make sure that you get there and enter the contest for the tickets and the jerseys April 6th, the Canucks and the Golden Knights. All right, it wasn't a golden night for the Vancouver Canucks, and I'm sure Rick Tocchet was feeling it as well. Let's hear from the head coach at the podium after a 3-1 loss to Utah.
Rick, let's start with the power play. Third period, you get the 4-minute penalty, you get 6 minutes of power play time, and just not much in the way of quality looks. How did you see it?
Yeah, we just looked at it, me and Yogi, the coaches, were a little frustrated. There was a lot of plays there to be made, and we just didn't make them. It was a little bit slow. We needed somebody to take charge of it. There was opportunities that, they had 3 guys on one of our guys. If it goes low, we should attack. I mean, there's just plays there. I don't know if we're tired or our thinking process, but I agree. We didn't get much.
You mentioned fatigue. I know you're one that doesn't like to use schedule as an excuse, but it felt like after you guys got up 1-0, they maybe took the game over a little bit. Any thoughts on why?
Well, I mean, it could be fatigue. Maybe I don't know if they took the game, or I didn't think they had a lot of chances. It's a 1-1 game going to the third. We got 6 minutes of power play. We're talking about moments, so I don't think they took over the game at all. I think they had some. They got good players. I mean, your NHL hockey teams you play against, they're going to get their moments. But 1-1 game, 22-hour turnaround. We have 6-minute power play. We don't get it done. That's the game. Bottom line.
On that power play, Rick, their penalty killers were obviously very aggressive at the top of the umbrella.
Yeah.
Do you have to find a way? Is there space
You
there?
go down low, and we have a 3-on-2 or 3-on-1. It's plain as day. It's been told of. I will say we're a little frustrated, the coach staff, because when you go hard up high, the puck has to go low. You got to make a play. It's there. So, I think we're a little bummed out about that.
And I know you spoke about this earlier today. Yeah. Phil Hedl hadn't been scoring lately for you, but he certainly was skating and transporting the puck. How much does it hurt not having him now?
Yeah, it's weakens your center position a little bit. He's a speedy guy. So you lose some speed in the middle. It does hurt short term, 100%. Yeah.
The one goal that you do get, you have layers of traffic, DeBrusk and Boeser and the Utah players there. In the power plays in the third period, when you were generating shots, there didn't seem to be any traffic there. Is that a matter of needing to make the right read, wait, have the patience?
Yeah, it's probably read. I mean, it's read. There's you got to buy 2 guys. You got to have somebody in front of the goalie's eyes and a second stick. So, maybe fatigue, pressure. Some guys handle pressure differently. Reads, are different. But it's a 1-1 hockey game. Like I said, they didn't get that much, and we had 6 minutes of power play, so didn't get it done. We lost the game. That's the story.
Kept his tie on at the podium. Not used to seeing Rick. Usually gets rid of the tie to do his post-game.
He had to do a post-game power play scout right away.
He's frustrated.
Yeah,
you can tell. And most of the questions there centered around the power play. And hey, if they're pressuring up high, then get it down low. And he's not wrong. You've got 5 guys out there. They've got 4. Find the mismatch and attack. And they just didn't do anywhere close to a good enough job of that. And as a result, they come out on the short end of the 3-1 scores. We said after back-to-backs, I'm assuming Monday is a full team day off. I can't imagine they would practice them at this part of the season before they play Winnipeg, and then Wednesday will be a travel day to get to St. Louis for the game on Thursday. So there aren't, and Rick's lamented this of late, not just with Thatcher Demko back skating, but when you got things to work on, the schedule's so compressed, and that happens when you take 2 weeks off as a league for the Four Nations. There's not much practice time. So
yeah, you mentioned the game Thursday, and then they go Friday. Probably have like a kind of skate because they play early Saturday.
I think they'll practice Friday. That'll probably be the next practice because then they won't have a morning skate. It's 1 o'clock at Madison Square, 10 o'clock back here on the West Coast. So an early game, couple of early starts on the 6-game road trip. The final game of the trip in Winnipeg is, I believe, a noon start Pacific. So a couple of wonky start times. And, we'll see if there are any developments on Thatcher Demko. Obviously, right now it's about Philip Hedl, and Rick talked about just the speed there. It's a different element that not enough guys on this team have, and so when he's out, takes us back to where they were before the JT Miller trade, where this just wasn't a very quick team, and the Utah club can get around the ice, and it was noticeable watching that in person for the first couple periods tonight.
Would you chalk this one up? I know everyone in our social space is power play, and Rick Tocchet the power play, Quinn Hughes the power play. Yes, the 6 minutes of power play time in the third period, what could have been a deciding factor, but was there anything beyond that stood out to you in reasons why they couldn't go ahead or couldn't take this game over?
I thought early in the hockey game they spent so much energy just defending and getting the puck out and getting off the ice and getting some fresh legs on. I mean, that was one of the reasons they I had them with 3 shots in the first period. I guess they gave them a freebie somewhere along the line. They finished with 4 officially, but again, the shots were 7-2 Utah with about 5 minutes to go in the first period. And that was reflective of the way the first period had unfolded. So, again, Utah had a system. They stuck to it. They pressured the Canucks, forced turnovers, hemmed them in their own zone. And then, when it gets to 4-on-4, you want to believe that more ice for a guy like Quinn Hughes to roam, more ice for Elias Pettersson to make some things happen. And yet they didn't do much with 4-on-4. They certainly didn't generate, as I look at the opportunities there. Utah thought it opened the scoring when Dylan Guenther crashed the crease there. Carconi and Marcus Pettersson. I think it was goaltender interference. Lankin is down and didn't have a chance to make a save, and they didn't even have to review. Referee waved it off right away on the ice, so no goal was the call there, and I think it was the right one, but that was a close call for the Utah Hockey Club. Otherwise, when I look at my notes in the second period, Derek Forbort had a great block on a Sean Dursey chance out against the fourth line. They turned the puck over, and Utah came back on the counterattack. And then Connor Garland was in all kinds of distress after blocking a shot. And you thought, oh, man, hopefully this isn't serious. He could not move. And the play went on around him, and eventually was able to muster the courage and the energy necessary to get the puck, actually made a play with the puck, and was able to clear the zone and get off the ice. But those are the highlights that I wrote down for the Canucks in the second period. Shot blocks, and that kind of tells you all you need to know about the type of night that it was. So tough one for the Vancouver Canucks, and opportunity missed absolutely. But on to the next one. 15 games to go now for this hockey team.
Think we'll see a change or two up front come Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we will, but it's also grasping at straws.
Yeah, it's true.
If it's Ratu and Linus Karlsson, there's a reason those guys have spent most of the season in the minors. But could they give you more in a short burst than a lot of the guys in this lineup right now? Yeah, why not? Why not? And when we talked about the fact that they got crushed in the faceoff circle, that's just another area that a guy like Ratu certainly could, help. Again, do I expect that he's going to be a difference maker? Not so much. So it's they're going to have to summon their very best against Winnipeg on Tuesday. We saw what the Jets did to them. Remember Kyle Connor had the first period hat trick?
Yes, I do.
Winnipeg. Yeah,
yes, I do.
Nils Höglander scored to break Connor Hellebuck's shutout. By the way, Eric Comrie starting in Seattle tonight. They're saving Connor Hellebuck. They're resting him for the game here on Tuesday night. So the Canucks are going to see the best goaltender in the business for the second time this season. They still have 2 games to go against the Winnipeg Jets. In fact, the Jets will be 2 of the next 7. So that's going to make matters that much more difficult for the Vancouver Canucks. Jets in Seattle tonight. Started the day tied with Washington for top spot in the overall league standings. They lead the league in wins and regulation wins. They're third in offense. They're first in defense. They're a team that means business, and they are built to finally get it right in the playoffs. Of course, easier said than done for them. So Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele with 35 goals apiece. Josh Morrissey's having a nice season. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck there. Kyle Connor is fifth in the league in scoring. Like,
you want to know? I know nobody talks about him. He plays in Winnipeg.
I know, but like it was a healthy scratch at the Four Nations.
Yeah, I know.
Fifth in the wow.
Even just to furthering that, like you looked at the bottom 6-4 group of Utah, perhaps, and then now just moving ahead, looking at the bottom 6-4 group of the Winnipeg Jets. Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton. Like that's their third line. That's a tough line to play against. And then they go and acquire Brandon Tanev. Yep. At the deadline. Alex Alafalo's having a great season, and Morgan Barron's also playing some pretty good hockey as well for Winnipeg. They're a really well-rounded team. If you thought, the Utah team was big and tough to play against, that bottom 6 is just big and tough as well for the Vancouver Canucks coming in Tuesday.
And then they added old friend Luke Shen.
Absolutely.
At the deadline.
Yep.
Just another layer of toughness back there. Look, they've got to get out of the first round and then see if they can get on a run, but they are built to mean business this season. All right. Time for that portion of the program, the line of the night, brought to you by Bet365. Where are you looking on the NHL scoreboard?
Breaking news, Jeff. We got hockey tomorrow. Coming from Bet365. Wherever nail-biting overtime win, it's a barn burner. Face-off hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between. Oh, it's amazing. Whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. Official partner of the NHL. Download Bet365 app and use code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 older. Please play responsibly. Yes, I like my parlays. I like the Boston Bruins against the Buffalo Sabres. The Columbus Blue Jackets, I almost always will take them as a home dog. I do like that. I know they're playing the Devils. And the Toronto Maple Leafs aren't losing. After what's kind of been going on there, I don't think that team is losing at home to the Calgary Flames tomorrow night. Well,
the Canucks and the Blues and the Utahs certainly will be pulling for Toronto in that one. And that is the start of an Eastern road trip. Just kind of the way it works. The Oilers are out on an Eastern road trip. They won at Madison Square earlier today, and Calgary's now working its way there. And, of course, the Canucks will be there before too long. But their trip starts in St. Louis on Thursday. All right, before we run here, I want to run this past you because Quinn Hughes scores tonight, gets to 16 goals on the season. I had somebody in my mentions ask me, how many 20-goal scorers are the Vancouver Canucks going to have when this season comes to an end? Jake DeBrusk is already there. He leads the team in goals. He's got 23. So that's one. Pius Suter's at 18. 15 games to go. You got to think that he gets to 20.
You might get, minimum 20 for him.
Brock's on 18 and hasn't scored in 12.
I think Brock gets to 20.
There's got to be 2 goals.
Yeah, there's 2 goals somewhere there.
So
there's an empty net somewhere in there for him.
Connor Garland's at 17. He'd been a little quiet. Scored a nice one last night against Chicago, but they're done with the Blackhawks. He's on pace for 21. So 3 goals in 15. You'd like to think that he can get to 20 as well.
He's the only one that puts himself in any real opportunity night in and night out to score goals too.
So I kind of want to lean that way. But again, this team doesn't score many goals.
What's Elias Pettersson at?
Well, EP40 and Quinn's at 16. Yeah. EP40's at 15.
Yeah, that's the tough one. Do you have 5 more goals? You hope he does with 15 games left. They're going to need him, especially if Hedo's going to be out for any extended period of time. I know Hedo hasn't scored many goals, but you got to drive play somewhere, and you're going to get it from your best player.
Hasn't scored many on the road this season.
Yeah,
we talked about that. And I wonder about Quinn. I think Quinn's going to try everything in his power to generate offense. Is he going to have more 5-shot nights? Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's probably a better chance of Quinn getting to 20 now than EP40. So we'll see. I said 4, even though there's 6 candidates. The way this team has struggled to generate offense, and of course you're banking on everybody staying healthy, and there's no way of accounting for all of that. But I said 4. We'll see. Again, that sort of underscores the type of season that's been, that we're trying to peg how many 20-goal scorers they're going to have when. Was it? I think Tampa's got 6 already, and 3 of them are 30-goal scorers, and Winnipeg's got 2 guys up over 35. So the struggle is real for the Vancouver Canucks. A disappointing night at Rogers Arena, but the beauty of pro sports is you dust yourself off and you get back in the ring and you try it again, except that it's the best team in the league coming your way on Tuesday. So we'll see what that looks like against Winnipeg on Tuesday night, and then off on the road for 6 in a row. All right, a reminder, we like to give you a reminder at the end of every show. If you don't already, please follow us on the socials. You can see all of our handles there on the live stream, and of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you don't miss any Rink Wide content, and rate and review. Leave us some remarks. We like the content that we get in the live chat. Leave us a review so that others know what you think of Rink Wide. 67 down, 15 to go, and then maybe some more hockey after that. We shall see. But nights like tonight make it a little dicier proposition as Utah gains some ground on the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks stay above the playoff bar for the time being, but may not stay there for long if they play like they did in this one. Our thanks to Mike Rogerson, working hard behind the scenes on a Sunday. He's got to get ready to get back to the Monday to Friday grind, but here with us on a Sunday, and good to get you back in here as well.
I got something from a listener. Des Tapper. I stay awake in Newfoundland, 4.5 hours ahead of Vancouver, and honestly, most nights, you guys put on a better show than the Canucks.
Oh, Des.
Thank you, Des.
Love to hear that. Appreciate that. We may have to get back into doing Rink Wide Worldwide
yes,
again and checking out where people
absolutely
are grabbing our content. We'll save that for another night here down the stretch. But again, thanks to everybody in the chat. Lots of people saying, hey, this team needs a power play coach. We've heard that before, and maybe that's going to be a topic that comes up again here as the Canucks work their way to the finish line in the regular season. 3-1, the Utah Hockey Club, with its first ever win in Vancouver, first ever visit to Vancouver, and they sweep the season series from the Canucks. Canucks got the single point for an overtime loss back in December, but otherwise 3 wins for the Utah Hockey Club, and when all is said and done, those could be significant points in the race for this final wild card spot. All right, for Irf, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out another edition of Rink Wide Vancouver.